Hi, this is Open Up Resources, Algebra 1, Unit 3, Lesson 5. Give me 5. We are going to interpret, just basically figure out different ways of writing about functions. So one will be a graph form, or a table, or an equation, or a situation, one of our representations. And then the other one is going to have details from the various features, and we'll try to match them together. So we will have a visual, we'll practice our function or interval notation, and there's some of them will have two functions that we're comparing. So we'll have two sets of cards, A and B. If you have a set in front of you, you are going to lay out all the A's, and then we're going to figure out which B matches it. I actually have another one up here that I can, I'll do one online so you can see kind of all of them in a row. And then we're going to find the match, tell us why we match it, and then we are going to answer some questions for it. So the B has 5 statements. All right. So going down here, we're looking for A1. So A1 is a straight line. Looks like it goes from -4 to 6 on the x's and -3 to 12 on the y's. So those are some things I'm noticing before I go look in the statements. So if I come down to the B's, domain is 0 to 15. That doesn't work because we just said domain was -4 to 6. So f of x and g of x, we don't have two functions, so it can't be that one. B3, f of 1 is greater than f of 2. If I go back over here, nope, I gotta scroll back up. So f of 1 is greater than f of 2. That is incorrect. So I'm going to go back down to B3. So that one is not true. Here I have two functions again. This one is not. And out of these two, looking here, there's two functions as well. So B5 is looking like it's probably going to be it. So let's look. F of 2 equals 6. Let's scroll up. And then f of 0 is 3. So let's just check those two. F of 0 is 3, and f of 2 is 6. All right, so that one's looking pretty good. And then the range we said was -3 to 12, so that's correct. And f of x is greater than 0 for the -2 to, yeah, that one works because that's my -2. My answers are all positive. So I'm going to go back to my sheet here, and I'm going to put, just run blue, B card is B5, and then we're going to justify it over here. So it was one equation. We were looking for that equation. And the points and x-intercept matched, as well as the domain. So all the pieces ended up working on here. Okay, so A2. Let's see which one A2 matches. So A2, again, is a one equation. So that's going to help narrow it down a little bit. We kind of go from 0 to 4 for our y's and -1 to 3 on our x's. So let's kind of see what happens here. So B1 was one graph. Domain is 0 to 15. That is not true because our domain was very small. B2 had two equations. B4 had two equations. So that's kind of leaving B3, because didn't B6 have two equations? It did. So 1, 3, and 5 are the single equations. So 3, f of 1 is greater than f of 2. Let's look. F of 1 is greater than f of 2. That is correct. What else? F of 3 equals 4. and f of 1 equals 2. Oh, everything is greater than or equal to 0. That was true. Range was 0 to 4. Yep. So I'm pretty positive on B3. And our reasoning will be one equation, all positive outputs, and correct points, correct range and points. Okay, so A3, narrowing it down. So let's go up to A3. A3 has two equations. Now we're looking at 2, 4, 6, right? So let's see. It looks like we have a couple of equal points on here. Any others have equal points? We don't know on this one. That one's not looking. So let's just see what do we have for B2, 4, and 6 to see on here. F of x equals g of x at x equals 0. So do they meet at x equals 0? They don't, so it's not B2. B4, f of x equals g of x at -2, -1, and 3, 4. Ooh, there's two intersection points. Does this one, I don't know, we'll see on that. F of x is greater than g of x between -2 and 3. Let's check that one out. Between -2 and 3, yep, f of x is bigger. I think we found a winner on this one. F of 0 plus g of 0 is -4. And f of -1 and g of -1 equals -4. So if I add those two coordinates together, I should get -4 twice. So let's see. 0 is 1 plus -5, that is -4. And I have 0 plus -4, that's -4. Perfect. Okay, I think we're good on this. So A3 matches, what did we say, B4. Okay, so this one is B4. Why? We have two graphs, two crossing points, and the small range where f of x is greater than g of x. All right. A4. Let's see what we've got here. So A4. F of x represents the relationship between the number of gallons of gas purchased, x, and the amount paid for gas, f of x. So that's only one equation. I think we only had one left that had one equation because we're down to 1, 2, and 6. And that one has 2, and 6 has 2. So I think we're at B1. So let's double check. F of 5 is less than f of 6. So what does that mean in terms of this? Gallons purchased and amount paid for gas. So if you have 5 gallons of gas you paid for, it's going to be less than 6 gallons you paid for. Yep. Domain 0 to 15 gallons. That's probably about right for a vehicle. Constant rate of change of 3. I agree with that one too, because it's probably a consistent pumping. No gas, no money. And an absolute maximum, well, if it's a rate of 3, then 15 times 3 would be 45. So B1. B1 works. And our justification is one equation. No gas equals no dollars. Limited range since it's filling a gas tank. All right, so A5 and A6. Now we're left with those two. A5 is a table. So there's two equations. So we just got to decide which of B6 or B2 matches it. So let's see what B2 says. F of x equals g of x at x equals 0. So let's see. X equals 0. Those two are not equal. So that means it's probably B6. So let's go down and look and see one of those. F of x equals 0 at 1. It's increasing from 2 to 6. So let's go ahead. 0 equals 2. So we have a 1 comma 0, a 0 comma 2, 1 comma 0, 0 comma 2. Yep, and from 2 to 6, it's increasing. That is true because there it's going down. I think we got our winner. A5 matches B6. Okay. And the f of x increases the last part, and its points match the table. Okay, which that leaves B2 to be our final one. So let's just double check that we know what's going on between those guys. A6. So we've got two equations going on here. And if it's B2, they're equal at x equals 0. So let's just plug in a 0 for this. 2 to the 0 is 1. 3 to the 0 is 0 plus 1. So both of them equal 1. So that one works. G of x is less than f of x from 0 to 3.5. That's probably true on there. They both increase on that. Negative infinity to infinity. Yeah, you're always going to have an increase with an exponential. That's a positive slope, so those are both increasing. F of x has a constant rate of change. G of x is constant growth factor. So, yep, B2, it both cross. They cross at 0, 1. And same range, two different types of equations. All right, so now we have questions to answer about these guys. So after we've matched the cards, complete the information below. Use A and B in the pair for reference. So we're going to complete the information about that includes A1. Write the equation for f of x and use it to find f of 3 and that one. So let's write the equation for A1. So if I look at A1, I know it crosses at 0, 3, so that's my B. And it looks like my slope is up 3 over 2. Because if I go from this point to this point, that's what I get. So that means my equation is y equals 3 halves. I'm just going to do 1.5. No, I'm going to do 3 halves. Halves, parentheses on here, x plus, and I think it said it crossed at 3. Okay, so that's my equation. Oh, I need to make this bigger. That's why that's so small. There we go. All right, so f of 3. Oh, you know what? F of x, not y. Let's fix that. All right, so now when I come down here, I can do f of 3. Why can't I hit that button? Equals. So 3 halves times 3 plus 3 equals. So that's 9 halves plus 3, which equals 4.5 plus 3, which equals 7.5. So that's my final answer, 7.5. And if I'm doing this one, f of x equals -1, then I want to do -1 equals 3 halves x plus 3. And so to be able to solve that one, I'm going to scoot over. I need to add, actually, you know what? I might do this one by hand here. Let me go ahead and get my drawing tool out. So I want to subtract 3 from both sides. So -4 equals 3 halves x. And to be able to get rid of that, I need to multiply by the reciprocal. 2/3, which the 2/3 then cancel out. So x equals, I'm going to circle that, x equals 2/3 times -4, which equals -8/3. And we'll leave it at that. All right, so that one's good. Next one. Complete this information about the pair of cards for A2. What are the intervals of increase and decrease for f of x? So let's go ahead and look at A2. So increase is from -1 to 0 and 2 to 3. So increase is bracket -1, 0, parentheses, and parentheses, it was 2 to 3. Oh, 2 to 3, and that's a bracket. So then decreasing was probably between those two, right? 0 to 2. Okay. So decreasing was from parentheses. Oh, it's changing on me. Parentheses, 0, parentheses, 0, 2. All right. Complete this information about A3. Graph f of x plus g of x from -1 to 3. Okay, so what I'm going to do for this one is make a table, actually. And I'm going to do, let's do, you know what, let's just go ahead and do f of -1 plus g of -1 equals, so f of x at -1 is 0, and g of x at -1 is -4. Equals 0 plus -4, which equals 0. So my point here is -1 comma -4. Okay, so then f of 0 plus g of 0 equals, let's go back, f of 0 is 1, f of 0 is -5. So 1 plus -5 equals -4. So that makes this point 0 comma -4. Okay, next one. F of 1 plus g of 1 equals, f of 1 is 2, g of 1 is -4. So I have 2 plus -4 equals -2, which means this point is 1 comma -2. And then f of 2, a little tedious, but kind of the best way to be accurate on these. G of 2. So f of 2 is 3. G of 2 is -1. Wait. G of 2. Yeah, it's -1. Okay. So what did I say? 3 and -1. So 3 plus -1 equals 2. So that is 2 comma 2, right? Okay. And then f of 3 plus g of 3 equals f of 3, 1, 2, 3. Well, they're both 4. So that works out nice. 4 plus plus 4 equals 8. So that means this one is 3, 8. All right, so now I've got points that I can plot on here. So I'm going to go ahead and do my drawing tool, and I'm going to do this one in a purple so it shows up a little better. So -1, 4, -4, 0, -4, and then 1, -2, and 2, 2, and 3, 8. And so when you connect these, I'm going to use my, it is kind of interesting in that it's not a straight line across. It's actually a little bit of a dip down. It's so hard to be accurate on here for that. But that is what it looks like. It'll kind of dip down a little bit, and then it goes up and matches those points. So that's a really rough graph of that one. All right, complete this information on the pair of cards that includes A4. So write the equation and graph f of x. Oh, A4, what was that? Oh, the relationship between the number of gas. And we had to go, let's see, A4 matched, which one? B1. Okay, so we need to go back to B1 because that one had how much gas was being pumped at a time. It's constant rate change of 3. So my slope is 3. I know it's a line, and it goes to 0, 0. So graphing this one, I'm going to go, let's see. We have a point here, and it said at 15, it was at 45. So let's see, what are we counting by? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So we're counting by 4s. So that'd be 44. So 45 would be just about right here. I'm actually going to use the line because that's going to be able to be a little bit more accurate. So I'm going to go from 0, 0. So 44 is that line there. I'm going to go a tad bit above. So there we go. There's my graph from 0, 0, constant rate of to 15, 45. And then my equation for this would be f of x equals 3x, right? Because it was plus 0. All right, 6. Complete the information about the pair of cards includes A5. What function is changing faster in the interval of -5 to 1? Okay, so A5, which one was that? Let's see, what interval are we looking at? -5 to 1. So -5 to 1, this one is going from 44 to 6. So let's find our slope. Our rate of change is the slope. So I want, this is f of x. And that one equals, so it's 44 minus 6. And that's our numerator, divided by, and the 44 went with the -5, so -5 minus 1, right? Yeah. Okay, so that equals 44 minus 6. Wait a minute. Oh, to 1. Is it 1 or -1? Oh, to +1. Okay, so +1 is at 0. We need to go to 0. So 44 minus 0. So 44 minus 0 is 44 over -5 minus 1 is -6, which equals about -22 over 3, which again, if we put it as a decimal, is about -7.333. Repeating. Actually, it is exactly 7.3. So next one, g of x. Let's see the rate of change for g of x. So that's -13 all the way to 11. Okay, so do negative 13 minus 11 over, again, negative 5 minus 1. It's the same range there. And then, so negative 13 minus 11 is negative 24 divided by negative 6, which equals a positive 4. So which function is changing faster in that interval? Well, if you look at, one's positive and one's negative, but if you look at the number that has the largest absolute value, you're going to see f of x is the one that's doing it. So f of x has the greater rate of change because 7.3 is bigger than 4. Take the absolute values to compare. Find. Let's say find. So when you find the absolute values, 7 is a greater rate of change than greater average rate of change. That's the word I was looking for. Average rate of change, because it's just for that little piece and it's the average between all those. Okay, so complete the information about the pair of cards includes A6. So write the equation for g of x plus f of x, and then we find the answer to it. So g of x is 2 to the x, 3x plus 1 is f of x. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually literally going to put them together and put g of x plus f of x equals, g of x was 2 to the x plus 3x plus 1. Was it 1? 3x plus 1. Yep. So that is literally putting them together, right? 2 to the x and then plus f of x, which is 3x plus 1. 2 to the x is not, I can't combine that. That's not a number. That's not an x. So we leave it at that. So now when we fill it in, so g of 3 plus f of 3 equals 2 to the third, because I'm plugging in a 3, plus 3 times 3 plus 1. And that equals, well, 2 to the third is 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, plus 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 equals 17 plus 1 is 18. That's our final answer. All right, not too shabby. Okay, explain the meaning of f of a plus equals b and g of a equals c. We're going to go ahead and do this one. So what that is saying is the value of the function f of x at a is b, where a is the input, and b is the output. Okay, so for function g of x, a is the input and c is the output. Okay, so find the value of f of a plus g of a. Well, from what it tells us before, if f of a equals b and g of a equals c, then f of a plus g of a equals b plus c. And that's it. It's pretty nice, ready for more. All right, so common phrases, just to make sure we know what we're doing. So f of x is greater than 0. That's what we write. What it means is the outputs of f of x are positive or above the x-axis. Okay, next one is if f of x is less than 0. What does that mean? That means the outputs of f of x are negative or below the x-axis. Another thing we could write is f of x is greater than g of x. So what we mean is the graph of f of x is above the graph of g of x, which also means the outputs are greater in f of x. And the last way we could do it, I'm going to say there's f of x equals g of x. So what that means is the graphs of f of x and g of x intersect, and the outputs are the same for that input value. So whatever input value we put in there, their outputs end up being the same thing. All right, thanks for joining me. That's all we got for today. Have a good one.